All right, here we go. First time rolling here. What is that? A little bit funkiness. Okay. We're in my closet. This is where the magic happens. This is where I pick out my amazing outfits for the day. Yeah, that's what put this item together right here. You can't just throw that on. This is a lot of thought and planning goes into this. All right. So, the first lesson we're going to do this way is a hard lesson. So that's cool. But here's what's hard about it. It's not that hard, so stick with me. All right. It's gonna be a bunch of area problems. So let's say it's like, I don't know, let's say this is 5 feet by 4 feet, right? Simple. You know, if you had to find the area of that, area would be, number model would be 4 feet times 5 feet equals 20 square feet. So feet square, right? That's all pretty easy. Now, it's going to ask you some of that. It's going to ask you some areas, although it's going to throw it a little harder and make these like 4.5 and 5 or something like that. Let's try that. Let's say it was 4.5 by 5. Okay? That's the first thing that's going to make it a little tricky. There are a couple ways you could do that. You could do 4.5 times 5.5, right? Where you ignore the decimals. And, or four, sorry, yeah, I already messed up. 4.5 times 5. Okay, we ignore the decimal and we say 25, carry the 2, 5 times 4 is 20, 2 more is 22. We get 22.5. Or, if you don't like that way, you could just do the 5 times 4, right? And the half times, well, let's make it this. 4 times the 5. And then the half times the 5. Get both of those answers and add them together. 4 times 5 is 20. A half times 5, which means half of 5, that's 2.5. Put them together and you get 22.5. Same answer as before. So it's 22.5 square feet, if these were the dimensions. Okay, so now, that's the easy part. The hard part is they're going to be covering it in tiles that aren't square feet. They're going to cover it in smaller tiles. So let's say this is 1 square foot right here, okay? Okay, this is a square foot, which means it's 1 foot this way and 1 foot this way. All right? Cool, right? Pretty easy. But let's say we're covering this box right here in tiles, like little squares, that are 1/2 foot by 1/2 foot. So that would mean it's, 1/2 foot this way, 1/2 foot this way. So you got to think, how many of these little dudes would it take to cover this big dude? And it sounds to you, you think, oh, 1/2 foot. I just double it. Half of it must be 2.5 feet, must cover a square foot, and that's wrong. That's why it's hard. So you come over here and you say, well, let's start a little corner here. And if I'm going to go this way, 1/2 foot, I end up, bing, right there in the middle. And then if I go up 1/2 foot, bing, right there, then I come and there is 1/2 of a square foot. So guess how many half square feet, that's proper English, it takes to cover this square foot. Yes, you guessed it, kids. Those of you who were thinking 4 had the right answer. So it takes 4 of those suckers, 4 half square feet tiles to cover a single square foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you basically, if you're wondering, okay, so if it's 1/2 square foot by 1/2 square foot, think 1/2 times 1/2, that's 1/4. That denominator number is going to be the number of tiles that it takes to cover the whole thing. So now let's go back to our original problem. So it's 4.5 feet by 5 feet. Okay? So let's say I'm going to cover it in half foot tiles. How many is it going to take? Well, if this is 4.5 feet and I go up by 1/2 foot at a time, right? It would be double this amount, because it would be take 2 of them to make 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is not working for me. Anyway, it'd have to be 9, right? It would take 9 of the 1/2 feet to go 4.5 feet, right? Because you're going 6 inches at a time. It takes 2 1/2 feet to make 1 foot, right? So it would take 9 tiles to go this direction. And how many this direction? If it's 5 feet that way, if you're going a half a foot at a time, how many would it take? You double it, right? It would take 10 tiles to go that way, right? Because it's going half a foot each time. And the little tiles in my drawing, it's not a very good drawing, but let me make an easier one. Okay, fine. Let's say it's, so it's still on camera? It is, good. So this is 2 feet and 3 feet, all right? If I'm gonna go ahead, so let's say this is the 1 foot mark, right? If that's 2 feet, that means this is the half a foot mark. So then going up here, thirds would look like this. These are feet. Well, let's do that. That's cool. Yeah. All right, this is square feet. 3 times 2, 6 square feet, right? But if I want to cover this big shape in half-foot square tiles, which is what you'll have to do, it would look like this. It would go over, we'll start here, go over half a foot, go up half a foot. It's like this, just like I said before. It takes 4 of them to cover. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it was 6 square feet. And guess what? It's going to be 4 times as many tiles that are half a square foot. So if it says, okay, it's 6 square feet, how many half-foot tiles? You just have to multiply by 4 if it's a half a square foot. And this would be 4 tiles. So 4 tiles by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles. So that would be 24 tiles to cover this whole thing. Okay, cool. But wait, there's more. That's when it's a half a square foot. So let's go back to our square foot. So it's 1 foot, 1 foot. Now let's say it wants you to cover them in tiles that are 1/3 square feet. Yeah. So you go over 1/3 of a foot, which is a weird number. And then you go, so let's say break it into thirds. That's going to be like this, this. So I go over 1/3 of a foot, up 1/3 of a foot, over 1/3, up 1/3. Guess how many it's going to make? Those of you that said, wait, last time it was 2 times 2 to give us 4, and now it's 3 times 3. It takes 9, because 1/3 times 1/3, each of the little bitty squares is 1/9 of a square foot. That's 1/9 square foot. So it takes 9 of those suckers to cover 1 square foot, 9/9. Okay, so if you're doing thirds, if it says it's 1/4 of a square foot, there's one of these that pulls out 1/4. Now that book is obnoxious when it does this, but it's doing it, so get on it. If you do 1/4, it's going to be 1/4. Well, each of the little squaries would be a 16th, so it takes 16 of those little tiles to cover. That's what you need to know today. So it's going to ask you area. If it just asks you area, just do it like it's area. It's the same thing as it's always been. But if it starts talking about tiles, figure out how big the tiles are. And probably the easiest thing is if it's in fourths, just multiply the denominator itself, or do like I did, 1/4 times 1/4, and that'll give you whatever this is. That's going to be the magic number of tiles that it takes to cover one of those suckers. All right, that's what you need. Go get them.